crazy out here. Net bounce. Y'all gotta pardon me tonight. I feel like a superhero.
Hey, and welcome to iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Rohn. I am your host, Alan J. Campbell. And hey, we're going to get into a couple of things tonight. Actually, three particular things that's going on right now that are of interest, especially in this month of Black History, which I said last week is the shortest month of the year and one of the coldest months that they have delegated for us to enjoy ourselves. But a couple of things. I'm sure everybody has heard by now, or if you watched the All-Star game yesterday, the NBA All-Star game, and listening to Fergie of the group, the Black Eyed Peas, do the sorriest rendition of the national anthem. It had people sitting there scratching their heads, mouths wide open, trying to figure out what was she trying to do. Okay, now if you were trying to top Whitney Houston or even Marvin Gaye, which I don't think anybody has done can top that. That's the best rendition I've ever heard. But if that was her attempt, that's what you literally called crash and burning. Went down in serious flames. But she took to social media and Twitter and everything else to apologize for that horrific performance. Horrific. Okay. Listen, sweetie, stick to your day job, whatever that may be. Whatever that may be. Another thing this goes to what we're talking about now, that the issue of citizenship and Black History Month and racism. Make no mistake, people, racism is here, alive, and well. It never went anywhere. And unfortunately, it's never going to go anywhere as long as that there are Black and brown people, particularly Black people. It's never going to go anywhere for us. It just isn't. Over the weekend, during a sporting event, the Blackhawks were playing the Washington Capitals. Now the other thing is that a lot of people have this in their minds or in their heads that Blacks should not be in hockey. Okay, well, believe it or not, people, there are Black hockey players. The Hawks have a Black hockey player on their team right now, but but it's not the fact that these guys are Black. It's the fact that we're still having this conversation about color in certain areas, such as sports, particularly hockey, where for years there was absolutely no Blacks in hockey, none. No Blacks. But understand, some of us Black people, some of us can skate, and we can skate backwards. But getting to the story. During the game, and there's a player on the Washington Capitals player, or Washington Capitals forward. His name is Devontae Smith Pelly, who is Black, accrued a penalty, and he was put in the penalty box. That's basically like hockey's version of timeout. So they put him in the penalty box, and while he was sitting there, 4 fans began racially taunting him and yelling the word basketball, basketball, basketball. So Devontae Pelly got up and he went over to the glass. He started tapping on and he began to engage these individuals. At this particular point, United Center Security, Black Hawk Security intervened, and they promptly promptly ejected these people from the arena. Later today, the Black Hawks organization banned these individuals because these obviously were season ticket holders, and they banned these individuals from all future Hawk games and possibly for a very long time. And a statement was released by the Black Hawks stating that this type of activity is inappropriate. This type of conduct is inappropriate and will not be tolerated, and we have to take action on this. But the real story is the fact that we're having this conversation about blacks and in areas that white people, that white America, white entitled America think that we shouldn't be in. If you can put on a pair of skates and hold a stick and put a puck into a goal net, the side that's 4 feet wide, you can play the game. That was the same thing that they had. The same. We went through the same thing with MLB and with MLB when Jackie Robinson came up. They didn't think Jackie Robinson had the ability, the stamina, or even the intelligence to play the game. They didn't think he could catch, he could field, he could throw. They didn't think he could hit or they could do anything. Well, I mean, he showed them differently. He got up there, he did what he needed to do, and he stayed. The same thing when blacks started coming into basketball. The same thing when blacks started moving into golf. We started moving into areas that was exclusively for white people. And we're be honest. And as one of the Blackhawks players said, and he went on to say, he said, it's unfortunate we're still having this type of conversation. It's unfortunate that we still are. Yesterday was the season opener for Daytona, and the thing about that is that now we're beyond, and even in NASCAR, when they mention the first black stock car driver. Well, once we get to a point to where we no longer say these things, it then becomes irrelevant. So right now, there's a young man named Darrell Wallace Jr. who drives the number 43 car. Who Richard Petty, who is the grandfather, the icon of NASCAR. Now, I understand that most people think that NASCAR is a redneck hillbilly sport. Well, to a certain degree, it is. And you're asking yourself, why are black people in stock car? Well, because if you can drive, if you can handle, if you can hold your own, you should be there. It's no different in being in corporate America. If you can do the job, you should be allowed to do that. You should be allowed. Moving on to something. I'm moving on to a couple of things that really people should be really concerning themselves about. Last week, naturally, everybody, if you've been under a rock for the last um 10 years, we had another school shooting. Okay, and it's a matter of when does it end. Unfortunately, people, this is something that we're going to continue to deal with until one, they come up with common sense gun laws. That's one. Till they address certain matters such as assault rifles. Now, understand something. I'm not anti-gun. Neither am I pro-gun. But what I am is that we have to have some type of form of common sense. But the unfortunate part is when you have the organization, the NRA, which is the National Rifle Association, who are lobbying, who are paying politicians to keep certain legislation in place or to introduce new legislation. We're going to continue to have these conversations. We're going to continue to have these incidents. This individual, his name is Nicholas Cruz, went into a school and shot and killed 17 individuals in 6 minutes. 17 people in 6 minutes. Now, how he did this? This is all tactical on how he did this. He went into the school, pulled the fire alarm, and posted up in the hallway, creating creating a funnel to where everyone would come his direction, and had no way out. So as they turned the corner or as they were coming down the hallway, he's picking them off one by one, just completely spraying everyone. Now, this individual knew he had enough common sense to, after he had done what he'd done, managed to mingle with other students during the time the police arrived. He managed to mingle and slip out amongst the students who were being escorted out of the building. This guy goes down the block, goes into Walmart, buys a sandwich and a soda, sits down and eats, and continues about his day until law enforcement catches up with him. Now, the thing about this guy, He goes and he purchases a rifle at 19 years old. Purchases an AR-15 rifle. Okay, an AR-15 rifle is an assault rifle used by military and law enforcement. Okay, and it has a clip that holds upwards to anywhere to 50 rounds per clip. Now, this individual is very skilled, and not to mention, here's the sad part about this. And this goes into what Donald Trump mentioned about the lack of confidence that he has with the FBI. The FBI had this guy, Nicholas Cruz, on their radar for the last 2 years with his post and ravings and obsession with guns and a few other things. Now, as far as his psych evaluation, people knew that he was a little bit off, a little bit off his nut. But the scary part is that the FBI knew this, and basically the FBI is responsible, and they allowed this to happen without interacting. This goes into what Trump said about the lack of confidence, in our FBI, in our law, in some of our departments of law enforcement. Now, here's the funny part about that. The same way that the FBI knew about this is the same way that the FBI knew back in 1965, 66 about the Black Panthers. And they purposely went in and completely dismantled the Black Panther Party in 1960, 65, 66, 67, down to 60, down to 70. They purposely did that. Infiltrating, using some of our own people to infiltrate this. So you cannot tell me that if you want to stop something that you can't, because you can if you are doing the job correctly. So this individual, he's already said that he's going to opt to plead. He's going to plead guilty, with the understanding, and show you how smart this guy is. This is not his attorney that's telling him this. This is how smart this guy is. So this guy is not as crazy as they say. This is someone, because he's charged with 17 counts of premeditated murder. So this is a guy that got up and decided to do this. Decided that this is what I want to do today. Hopefully, and hope to get away. But knowing that Florida is a death penalty state. So his deal, this is what he told his attorney to tell the prosecution: I'm willing to plead guilty if you take the death penalty off the table. That's not somebody that's completely crazy. That's somebody that knows exactly what they're doing. They know what they're doing. When you have enough sense to negotiate a deal like that, you know exactly what you're doing. When they searched this guy's house, they not only found several more rifles, but they found several more handguns and rounds of ammunition. The common sense law comes in this way. How if you are if you're not old enough to drink at 21, if you can't start drinking until you're 21, how is it that you're old enough to buy a gun at 19? See, there's where your common law comes in. Your common sense law. First of all, what does a 19-year-old need with a gun? That's like turning over your $300,000 Phantom Rolls Royce over to your 15-year-old and then you're telling him, don't scratch it. Does that make any sense to you at all? None whatsoever. But this is what we're constantly dealing with. And don't take this the wrong way. When you hear about these school shootings, these school shootings are predominantly in white America. When was the last time that you heard a black kid lost his mind and decided to shoot up a school? When was the last time? I'll wait. Because see, now we're going back to Sandy Hook. We're going back to Columbine. We're going back to all of these little things to where a lot of these where these things are being prevented. So what the idea? So now we got these individuals. Now they're doing the protesting and saying, "Hey, we need to get rid of the guns. We need to take the guns." That's look. That's not going to happen. Good luck on that because it's not going to happen. As long as you have certain liberals out there that's saying, "I'm going to exercise my second constitutional rights, my Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms." That's never going to fly. And plus, you got too many people you got too many people who's got their hands in other people's pockets. There's too much. That pie is too big to try to sort that out. Too big entirely. Um, but in the process, I don't care how many metal detectors you put up. I don't care how you try to do something. You cannot you cannot control. You cannot dictate someone's mind when they have it set on what they want to do. They get up first thing in the morning, or whether it's first thing in the morning or whether it's late at night. A person's going to do what they're going to do. They're going to do it. Had they had any insight that this guy was going to pick this particular day and do it at that time at that place, they might have got a jump start. But and to whether to say the FBI could have intervened. Well, if this guy is on their radar, he's on their radar. This is where you step in. Now, the unfortunate part is that the FBI in Washington did not forward this information to the field office in Florida. So you have to ask yourself, what are we really doing? What are we really doing? But moving on from that, but it's unfortunate. It's just one of those. It's just this things that just continues to happen, and we continue to have a dialogue, and it's just continues. It's just a continuation of smoke screens and smoke and mirrors. That's what it boils down to. Now, my other thing I'm gonna get into, as as an actor here in Chicago, and several shows I've been on, several shows I've participated on is Med, Fire, PD, Empire, stuff like that. And usually I play a police officer on the show, particularly Fire and Med and PD. And with that being said, you develop, even though some of us are actors, and then there are real police officers there. With that being said, you all develop a camaraderie amongst one another. Is that we'll sit there and we'll have conversations, we'll share different stories about various things. Last week, February 13th, an incident took place in the heart of downtown Chicago. A Chicago police commander, Paul Bauer, was shot and killed by an individual. Now, the circumstances around in this is that, all accounts, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is not an incident to where it's happening on a south side street in the ghetto or in the hood or on the west side. This is happening in the middle of the city, downtown Chicago, right across the street from the Daily Center, from City Hall, and all this incident took place at the State of Illinois building, the Thompson Center. So, from all indication, that this apparently is what happened is that this individual by the name of Shamari Leggett, who is a four-time felon, 44 years old, four-time felon. And out of the 44 years that this guy has been on this planet, he has spent 16 of those 44 years in prison. Not to mention that he just finished up his parole for an armed robbery. Now, his arrest record dates back to 1991. 1991, and it reads I mean, reads like a phone book. List of drug convictions, drug offenses and convictions, possession of guns, possession of body armor. Now, understand that this individual also was serving time for being in possession of a firearm by a felon. Possession of a firearm by a felon. So, on this particular day, last week, um, he was a person of interest, and he was stopped by two police officers in Lower Wacker Drive. In their attempt to question him, he took off and he ran. They gave chase. Commander Bauer, who was a commander at the 18th District, which is the near north side of Chicago, was leaving a training seminar and then heading across the street to have a conversation with two aldermen about gun violence, gun control, and repeat offenders. Now that's the ironic part about this. He's going to have a conversation with these aldermen about the very things that the very individual that took his life. So during the process, Bauer hears a call come across the radio. The offender and Bauer literally run into each other. Literally, a scuffle ensues, and both men tumble down a set of stairs by the state building. Shots are fired, and by this time, state police and now the fact that the state building is full of law enforcement, You have CPD, you have state, you have ATF, you have several law enforcement agencies that were happen to be in the building at that time. They all come out and they take this in, and sheriff. They all come out and they take this individual into custody. Not only did that, but they take a firearm off of him that had an extended clip which held 30 rounds, and they take a vest off of it. Unbeknownst to them, that Bauer's at the bottom of the stairwell, critically wounded. So as we move forward, this is the primary thing that we have to deal with. See, this is something that whether it's a police officer or whether it's an individual, this could have been this was someone's husband, this was someone's father. This could have been any number one of us. But I say that because when we as an actor and interacting with law enforcement, it still feels the same. It's as if losing one of your own. Losing one of your own. Now, this individual, Shamari Leggett, is going to spend the rest of his life in prison. Make no mistake. Make no mistake about that. Make no mistake. But this individual, a person that is willing to kill a police officer, is more dangerous to an unarmed civilian, because that means that this individual has nothing to lose and he does not care. And not to mention that this shooting took place in the middle of downtown at 1:30 in the afternoon. 1:30 in the afternoon. The unfortunate part is that we'll look at this and we'll see that it was a black man that killed a white police officer. See, and we're going back to the part of black and white. Now the narrative or the rough part about this is that the first thing, we can, and make no mistake, you have white police officers, and the first thing they're thinking is that this Negro killed one of ours. Don't think for a minute that has not run that did not run across their mind. The same thing with and it makes it difficult for black police officers to be on the force, knowing that this is what they have to deal with and having to hear the little rumblings that goes on. It makes it difficult. Or as an old saying goes, sometimes that too black for the badge, but too blue for the brothers, which is really a true statement. It really, really is. It's a true statement. But that is the world that we live in. This is society has put us in. Has put us in this. This was an unfortunate incident that happened to that these two. This, as they say, this is one of the things where they say these are two men who met at the wrong time in their life, who crossed paths at the wrong time. I don't condone. I don't condone violence. I'm not, as they say. I'm not. I'm anti-crime. It's not to say that I'm pro-police or anti-police. No, I'm a human being, and when things like this happen in our society, when you have people that have no regards for life, whether the offender is black or white, and they have no regards, this makes it difficult for any number one of us to move about in our world. Move about. Commander Bauer leaves behind a wife and a 13-year-old daughter. The city of Chicago is building a $92 million multi-purpose training facility for Chicago fire and police academy, and they're renaming that academy in honor of Commander Bauer once it's completed. At the end of the day, a man lost his life. At the end of the day, another man is going to lose his life because he's going to lose his freedom. But it goes also into what Superintendent Eddie Johnson said. This was a person who did not care. This was a person who didn't want to go back to jail. This was a person who had no regards for anything but himself. Anything but himself. And that's how, and that's what it broke down to. That's what it broke down to. This man could have could have shot and shot at anyone or anybody. My sister works now. My sister literally works across the street from the Thompson Center. So as as a brother, the first thing that goes into my head is that, okay, are you in the building? Are you okay? Are you away from this crime scene? That's the first thing you think. The first thing you think. It's one of those. And as we, but these are just things that we ask ourselves, why and how come? There is no why. There is no how come. It goes back to what I said about the Florida shooting. These are individuals who have made a decision that this is what they're going to do. We want people to be tough on crime. We want crime fighters. This is what we want. But we also have to understand in the realm of crime fighting, in that realm, there also comes a cost with that. It all depends if you're willing to pay that cost, because it can be extremely high, extremely steep. It most certainly can be. It can be. Definitely can be. Hey, I'm gonna take a little break right now. Maybe a musical break, if all possible, right here on the Chronicles of Rohn. Hey, listen, if you have a comment or suggestion for the show, call us and leave it on the voicemail at 872-267-1381. Nubian Beauty of Hair. Check out their website, luxuryhairdirect.com/Nubian4. Remember to put the dot at the end of that 4. Give us a call here at the radio station at 708-223-8953. Chronicles of Rohn.
When the spirit gotta hit him like new shit. They call me Batman, cause the black mask is on my face. Gun up on my waist, booted and suited in them black capes. I'm looking for some hood rats that I take to the back cave. Y'all lame like blank man, while I'm steady serving them like Pistol on my utility belt, like, yeah, I keep my identity to myself, like, you don't want me to grab that thing from the shelf, like, I call them robbing, cause that's my only help, right? Okay. Girls hit my bat signal when they know that I'm coming. I say I ain't here for nothing, now give me that cat woman. As soon as we started stomach pumping, somebody had started thumping. She jumped up and caught her breath like, did you hear something? As soon as I get near to y'all, you want me to get into y'all. I ain't trying to tease, I'm play with your mind like the Riddler. Girl, I'm really feeling ya, but you're acting two-faced. Her body smell fresh, but her breath needs some toothpaste. Nah, I ain't even go play with her, I'm giving it to her all the way straight. Wait, she said quit playing. What you think, I'm a joker? About a money freaking back.
Hey, man, we're back here on iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Rohn. I am your host, Alan J. Campbell, tonight. Hey, we're getting into a couple of things. We're sticking into our line of racism and the world that we live in of violence. Moving on from that, I'm gonna kind of bring a little upbeat right quick. If you have not, I repeat, seen the movie Black Panther, by all means do go see it, because I am hearing such great things about it. I haven't seen it myself. That is my plan to do. From all indication that they say that this is the best, and this is coming from white America, white critics. They're saying that this is one of the best live action films that they have seen. And when they're talking about live action, we're talking they have said that this has surpassed the Justice League, Batman, Superman, and all the others. This is one of a really good film, a really good film. Now, one of the things that they were kind of skeptical about is the fact that this was a predominantly all black cast. Okay. See, this is a film to where you're not seeing us Yazabossing and slaves and thugs or criminals, that we are being the antagonists. No, this is a film that creates a level of thought provoking. It's creating, helping us reclaim our heritage. Keyword, heritage. And they knew exactly what they were doing when they decided to release it in Black History Month. They knew exactly what they're doing. Trust me, this is by design. By design. I'm a quote. I'm a read something that Albert Einstein said, and I want you to think about this. Albert Einstein, who was a Nobel Prize winning scientist, said, and he was at Lincoln University, which is a historical black college in Pennsylvania, and Einstein went on to say, the separation of the races is not a disease of colored people. It is a disease of white people. I do not intend to be quiet about it. Key word, it is a disease of white people. A disease. And when you have one white man referring to another white man as a disease, they got a whole bunch of other problems that they need to be discussing and dealing with. They definitely do. But he said that to make a point that black people are not the problem. We are not the ones that are inciting levels of racism. We're not the ones that are doing that. As it stands right now, Black Panther has grossed in the United States of the 4-day weekend, and they still haven't finished the tally as of yet, because it's there. They haven't counted. They haven't got the full the tally as of Monday, but as of stands right now, it has grossed in the United States $235 million. Now, they had a budget of $200 million to create this film. So now they've made their money back, a little profit of 35 million. So, but they've grossed 235 million in the United States. Worldwide, they've grossed $361 million worldwide. $361 million. And this is just the first weekend. The first weekend. And this is a 4-day, and they opened Thursday, so they had 4 days. If in each showing is sold out. Sold out. And that's not just here in Chicago, that is across the country, because they're saying this film is that good. That good. You have the character. You have the character of Chadwick Boseman, who is playing who plays Black Panther, and if you don't know who he is, look him up. You know, just a few. He's done several films. The film that he played, Get On Up. He played James. Where in that movie he played James Brown. And then you have Michael B. Jordan, that most of you may remember, who was in Creed, who played Apollo's son. But these two, they play opposite of each other. But when you go back to the origin of Black Panther started out it's still a comic, and at the time he was the only black character that Marvel had, the only black character at that time. The only black character. And when this film, when they started to really start talking about it and really getting it off the ground, there was a lot of buzz about this from the very beginning, because a lot of people wanted to sign on. There's Angela Bassett is in it, Forrest Whitaker, just to name a few who are in it, and they all have spoken on how well this film, the script, everything was put together. Now you cannot. Now this is the film also that you cannot dismiss a little bit of controversy, just a little bit. But this is perpetrated by white America. White America. Before this film even hit theaters, they had critics saying that the film was anti-white. Anti-white. Now, if I recall, that every film that since the inception of filmmaking has been pretty much anti-black. So what's the difference? When you had Gone with the Wind, they had four characters that were black, and they were Yaza Balson and Steppin' and Fetchit. Four black characters. Everybody else was white. Everyone else was white. So help me understand that. Several other films. I mean, there was a point in time to where blacks weren't even allowed. They weren't even allowed on a Hollywood backlot or Hollywood studio. Now here we're coming to the forefront, but this goes on to what I've said before, is that using, and for lack of a better word, that we are a marketable talent. We are marketable, because when we get in front of the camera, we gonna do what we need to do, and we gonna make it work. We gonna make it shine. And then you have this group of characters, this cast of characters who are working together, and they're bouncing off of each other as one character interacts with another. You see how this continues to pick up speed. Now, I don't know if some of you have been on Twitter or maybe Facebook or any other social media, but there have been people who have been trolls, who are trolling the media and posting pictures saying that they were assaulted by black audience goers. So what they're doing is they're trying to start an issue here, race riot, whatever you want to call it. But this is, once again, going back to what Einstein said, it is not. It is not. It is not that racism is not the disease of colored people, but it's the disease of white people. See, white people are more afraid of us than we are of them. White America is more afraid of us than we are of them. So as they begin to post these pictures of people with their heads bashed, people with their heads split open and beaten and bloodied and stomped, and saying it just come from the movie, and a few blacks attacked them. Now, the funny part about this is that um, there is no there are no reports of these things ever actually happening, and now they finally come out and dismiss these allegations to saying that these are people who are trying to stir up trouble. Police departments across the country saying they have had no incidents or acts of violence since this film opened up. Since it opened up. But see, this isn't this isn't the first time that this has happened. This isn't the first time that this has been done. When they were doing a movie about the Black Panther Party, they said the same thing. When they did this, when Birth of a Nation, that was written and directed by Nate Thomas, I believe, they did the same thing to try to create and stir up a lot of animosity, a lot of anger that they want to continue. The worst thing, the scary thing for white people, is that when black people come together, when we start reading, when we start getting the information for ourselves and dissecting it and seeing what it really holds and what it like, that's when white people get scared. That's when they become nervous and a little bit antsy about, hey, what are we going to do? We have to do this, we have to do that. And when they went on to try to say that the film Black Panther was inciting violence, this just puts them right out in front of what we've all been saying. There's some parts of white America that are very dangerous, and they're the ones that keeping this lunacy, this madness going. When people sit there and they say, well, we have this racist in the White House. Well, here's the thing. We have to look at it. We have to look at this and ask ourselves, who really is the true racist? Who really is the true racist? Are we saying that this man is a racist because we don't like him, because we don't agree with his policy, or are we saying he's racist based on what someone may have told us? See, black people can't be racist by default because we have never oppressed another people. We have to understand that. We have to understand the terminology. We have to understand that. And when I'm referring, and then when I talk about this movie about the Black Panther, here's another thing that we as black people, we have to stop doing. When these films come out, spend your money, go to the show, support this film. Don't go to to Joe Jim Shoe or to that other tackhead down the street that's selling bootleg DVDs. Don't buy it off. Don't buy the bootleg DVD. Don't do that. It's not that you're taking. It's not that you're not trying to support a guy who's trying to make a living, but at the same time, you're not supporting the film. You're not showing. This is a way on how to uh, show people that we also are a unity of people. We are a nation of people that we have to do, and we have to support one another. We have to support these films, in the feature top name films or black independent films. We have to support this because see when you do this is that you're hurting the bottom line of what this movie can actually potentially be making. See me, I for one, I don't buy bootleg DVDs. One, because you get it home and it may not be compatible with your system. And so now you didn't spend a few dollars on something that you can't even see, or the audio is horrible, or but it's well, and then someone will show it to you. Well, look, I'm gonna play it for you right here while we got it before you buy it. Well, that's his equipment. It's probably the same equipment that he used to burn it with. Then you get it home and it's not working. And then you can't you can't find this knucklehead, but you're out of some money. Go to the show. Go to the show. Fellas, take your ladies. Go to the show. Watch this film. Ladies, go with your guys. Watch this film. Watch how these watch how these characters interact with one another. Watch how the king, and understand something. See, when we get to talking about our king, the king, my queen, you have to understand when you're using those terms of king and queen, that's not about royalty. It is about position. It is about where you are in that person's life, the role that you play. There's a part in there where she says, "My king," and when she refers to him as quote "my king," she is showing humility, honor, and respect. That is what she's doing. It is not it is not her saying that I'm going to bow. No, she is giving him the respect. He is and showing him honor because he is her protector. He is he is the overseer, her protector, her guardian. Her job is to compliment her job. What she does, she compliments him by doing the things that she's supposed to be doing, being the queen. And understand that terminology, ladies, when they're referring to as the queen. Understand what that actually means. This takes us back to when we were kings and queens in Africa. At one point, as a child, the only well, let me change that. When you were coming up, and the only pictures that any of us have ever seen, and even I'm gonna ask my engineer, when you were coming up, the only pictures that you ever seen of Africa, every picture they ever showed you was the bush, was dirt roads. They never showed you cities. And so if they showed you enough of some maybe the deplorable conditions or the bush or dirt roads or other parts of Africa, if you look at this long enough, it's called cultural conditioning. And it's what they did. So you've got in your mind is that I don't want to go to Africa. I don't want to go there. I don't want to even see this. Of course not, because they're not going to show you the best parts, the beautiful parts of Africa. They're not going to show you the rolling plains. They're not going to show you the Serengeti. They're not going to show you those beautiful mountains that are out there in Kenya and Congo. They're not going to show you these things. Not going to show you. And this is what they do. Hey, welcome to the show, the Chronicles of Rohn. Who do I have on the phone and where are you calling from?
This is Jay from Georgia.
Hey, what's happening?
All right. So I know you're hitting on a bunch of stuff tonight. I'm going to try to be brief. So let me start with the most current thing you were talking about, which is the landscape of Africa, the actual beauty and the riches of Africa that they have. And I won't even blame anybody. This is our own fault. At this point, with the plethora of technology and the plethora of information, there's no reason why we don't know more other than our inability to want to know more. If Africa is such a desert, if it's such a hellhole, then why do they keep going there for some of the most priceless jewels and priceless minerals and priceless trinkets of the world? Gold, silver, platinum, diamonds. Right. But this is such a hellhole. So right. I'll digress. So something's there that they like and that they want that is of significant value that would make people cross seas and oceans and enslave other people for hundreds of years to keep them away from something that they've already had. But I'll digress from that. Second thing is, as we'll talk about the school shooting and so on and so forth, again, this is yet another example of our own judgment that's sitting upon us. See, we in America, we're sitting in some sort of as I've said before, some level of medically induced coma, because we do not understand that everything that you do has some level of reckoning or reconciliation that has to happen. We have not dealt with the situation of race. We have not dealt with the situation of inequality for the poor, and just the inequality or the overabundance of consuming that we've done to ourselves at the benefit of those who have the least. That has to be reconciled at some point. One interesting thing about the school shooting that I think we should make note of is, yes, we know that the FBI is incompetent. We know that our intelligence community as a whole is incompetent. That there's no secret to that. These are the same people who gave us the story that 19 guys from a desert country overtook 3 planes with no training and destroyed the world in the civility that we knew it. But yet, in the course of all of these explosions and high intense heat, driver's licenses and paper passports were fully preserved. These are the same people that told you that story. Okay. These are also the same people that tell you even now that this 19-year-old kid took an AR-15 rifle, which he did. We're not debating what he did, but he got in an Uber, took an Uber to the school with the gun on him in a backpack.
Well, let me interrupt real quick. I'm glad you mentioned that, because here's what he did. Not only did he take a backpack, but he had the rifle in a rifle bag, what they call a long gun. He had it in a bag. Now, here's and I'm glad you brought that up. And I just wanted to throw that out at you, because the problem I had with that is that as an Uber driver, this didn't raise any alarms that you had a bag. Everyone knows what a rifle bag looks like. There's no.
Listen, I'm an Uber driver. If I'm an Uber driver and you get into my car with something that does not make me feel comfortable, we're not going anywhere. I've had Uber drivers not pick up me and my folks because there were too many of us and they didn't feel comfortable.
That sounds like trying to catch a cab in Chicago.
But nonetheless, but we'll go forward. The other interesting thing that we have to be very conscious of, and again, I'm trying to be brief, is when he was given his first appearance, and this is again our ignorance to understanding the system. When he went before his first appearance, no one noticed that he already had an attorney in place, not a public defender, not some sort of court-appointed liaison. He had an attorney in place.
He sure did.
And his attorney and whoever this other gentleman were coercing him and giving him compassionate guidance on how he should proceed. The narrative that they put for this child or to this guy was this guy. He's a 19-year-old person who's had many run-ins with the law within the last 2 years, upwards of 24 times. But when it comes to the point to where he's now massacred 17 kids in an affluent school community, which is another good term that we need to understand. Affluent means that we've paid enough money to move ourselves from all of the evils we thought would never touch our children. That's what that means. So
right, because Parkland, because if people, if you don't understand the affluent area where this happened, this is a community called Parkland, where there are no blacks living in this community.
Well, and let's not.
Go ahead.
Quit minimizing it to black and white. This is an affluent area, which means when we don't feel that you make enough to sit at our table, we buy the whole block to make sure you can't get in there. See, that's what we have to understand. We're looking at this from the wrong thing, and I've said this several different times. This whole thing of race has transcended the very small defining characteristic of just color. But anyway, I'm just going to say this. So he went to an affluent neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
He has eluded the attention of the FBI, which is, as we've seen in times past, the FBI is probably one of the most incompetent and racially biased judiciary law enforcement agencies on the planet. These were the same people who targeted and called the Black Panthers the most dangerous terroristic group in the United States, but
Correct.
never classified the Klan as a terrorist group.
Correct.
There's a problem with that. So in the 1970s, when the Black Panthers, the original Black Panthers, were going through protecting their own communities from being victimized by the police, victimized by slumlords, being victimized by government people who were trying to gather intelligence and counterintelligence on civil rights people and performing terroristic intimidation, such as the White Citizens Council,
Mm-hmm.
such as certain precinct captains in the city of Chicago and the city of Philadelphia and New York. They were persecuted, and the FBI held the intelligence and dispatched people to persecute those people.
Right.
So I'm saying this is a whole nother conversation that has to be looked at from a deeper standpoint other than race, because it's deeper than that. It's bigger than that. This whole thing of gun control, this is a matter of certain people need them, and I'm just going to say certain people of a certain complexion need them. And those of you who don't fit our criteria, we need to keep y'all as far away from them as long as possible. And we will spend millions of dollars to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what is happening.
Right. And Malcolm X said it best. This is the true testament, or the true testament of what they say. The chickens have come home to roost.
But it's not done.
Oh, no.
That is the sad part.
That's right.
Because what we're seeing, this is just the first round that's getting the people in their areas of where they think is comforting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And and the thing about when we discuss where we're at when we get to the part about when you first about gun control. See, people have to understand the United States is a gun culture. It is a gun culture. It always has been since its inception. Which is of 1619.
They call us cowboys.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so if you look at how the world perceives us, and this is Americans, they always call you a cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
And in our ignorance, we think that that's a compliment.
Right.
What they're really saying
it's an
is,
insult.
Here is the Neanderthal that pulls a gun to everything and shoots his way out of it.
That is absolutely correct. That's what when they use the term, he's going cowboy, because it's a form of recklessness and no thought process, and keyword Neanderthal. This is a Neanderthal with a loaded gun shooting his way out of everything with no regard for life or limb.
Right. Or who's next to him or who gets hit in the process.
Correct. That is it. That you are absolutely right. I'm right about that.
For my time.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate you, Georgia. Appreciate it. Hey. And hey, that's all the time we have tonight for the Chronicles of Rohn here on iHeart Intellectual Radio. I'm your host, Alan J. Campbell. Hey, this is a shout out to our sponsor, Nubian Beauty of Hair. Check out their website for their fabulous products at luxuryhairdirect.com/Nubian4. And as in closing, not my monkey, not my circus. See ya.
Now bounce. Y'all gotta pardon me tonight. I feel like a superhero up in here. When the spirit gotta hit him like new shit. They call me Batman, cause the black mask is on my face. Gun up.